Welcome to the Uncanny Lens, where we explore self-concept reflections in pop culture and media. I'm your co-host, Jinx.
And I'm Minx.
And today, we are going to be talking about the movie Free Guy. But first, Minx.
Yeah?
I have a question for you. I want to know what is on your playlist this week.
On my playlist, I've been watching this show. It's so silly, so fun, very relaxing for me. And I've never seen it before, but it's been on Netflix for a couple years now, I guess. Is It Cake, right? It's just hilarious. The characters, the people that, you know, these are people who do this for a living, who like fool people with cake. And build these hyper-realistic cakes, right?
I like that you said that they fool people with cakes, like they're cake charlatans.
Yeah, it's so silly. It's such a fun, silly show. And I was sick over the weekend, so that just kind of cheered me up. I didn't want to have to pay attention to anything too serious. So that was just really fun. And gosh, what else? I watched No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence, and that was hilarious. She is amazing, and she hasn't been in anything for a while. I think the last movie that we really saw her in was the Don't Look Up. That's the last thing I remember seeing her in. Anyway.
Oh, the one with Leo. It took me a second. I was like, what was that? Yeah, okay, the one with Leo.
Yeah, the asteroid. Yeah, exactly. And Meryl Streep. And
I like that I can just say the one with Leo and everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Everybody knows
who Leo is.
That Leo.
We're on a nickname basis with Leonardo DiCaprio over here.
Yeah, so that was really cute. It was super funny. I watched it with my partner and we both laughed and it was just really fun. We hadn't seen a movie, like an adult movie together in a while too, so that was really sweet. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been doing. How about you?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I love that you're watching the Is It Cake show. I like to watch that with my dad. It's the type of show that we'll watch before we're like getting ready for bed to help bring us, down to a more calm state. It's just a really nice way to spend time with my loved one when I'm visiting with them and to still be entertained without having to get super engaged in some big story or something.
Deep. Yeah.
So I love that. So what's on my playlist right now is, I have like there's so much good summer music and things like that are out right now, but I'm really into a couple of shows because they're getting ready to wrap up either the series or just the season. And so the first one is Nancy Drew. I'm such a Nancy Drew fan. And I wasn't before, like I didn't read her books.
Oh, I loved those books.
I say it like she wrote the books or something. Like I didn't read her books. That's not what I meant. I mean that I didn't read the Nancy Drew books. So I'm really loving watching Nancy go through these really interesting stages of grief in multiple relationships in her life. And I think that also plays into the other show that I'm watching, which is The Summer That I Turned Pretty, which is a Amazon series that is a book adaptation. I really like watching this book come to life. In The Summer That I Turned Pretty, there is a lot of relationship transitions that are happening that are also forcing the characters to deal with this grief. And so I am enjoying watching these characters explore that because that's something that I am exploring in my self-concept as well.
Awesome. Well, what is new in your self-concept this week?
Thank you for asking. I just got back from Vortex Fest, which
sounded so amazing.
It was so amazing. It was Gala Darling's final Vortex Fest, and I am new to the whole community of Gala Darling. And I have never been to a Vortex Fest before, and I was not a member of her Vortex membership. However, I am now like super excited to be a part of this community. So a couple of things shifted for me at that event. One was that I realized that I need to be leveling the fuck up it's time for me to be stepping up in a lot of different ways in my beliefs about myself and what I want for my life. And
Mm.
I also realized that I have walked through most of my life being very on guard around a lot of other women, or maybe just in public in general, if I want to be honest, but not feeling even safe or comfortable in a space that's full of a majority of women because I just felt like I was going to be attacked.
Mm.
And being in the space that I was in during Vortex Fest just shattered that belief for me. I now
Mm.
know that there are large amounts of people out there who share some of my values and beliefs about how we should treat each other in the world when we're out
Yeah.
in public. And I allowed myself to come out of my head and into my body. And all of that also had to do with the amazing way that the event flowed. And another thing that I think I picked up from that, and this will be my final thought on this, was so Gala said during the living room panel that another one of the panelists, Chelsea, walks around thinking and saying to the world, like embodying this energy of like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And Gala was asking herself, what is she saying as she goes throughout the world? And she was saying, like, fuck you, fuck
Mm.
you, fuck you. And
Mm.
I really related to that because I'm generally going through the world very, very guarded and on the lookout. I'm very hyper vigilant.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, fuck you, get away from me, fuck you, get away from me.
Yeah.
If I want to just be completely honest, that I very often have my reality reflect that back to me with some of the interactions that I
Yeah.
have.
Ooh, I can't wait for you to see No Hard Feelings. It is that character, just what you were describing, really resonates with what you just
Mm.
said. So I think we're going to have to do an episode on that too
Wow. Okay,
at some
great.
point. Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Okay, Minx, so tell me what's new in your self concept this week?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on that this morning. It's so funny because I don't think that what is like new in my self concept this week is actually really new in who I am and my self concept in general. It's just something that I'm remembering about myself. I have a dear friend of mine in town from Europe who I have not really spent much time with in the last 5 years since I moved back to the US. I was living abroad for a little while, and she was one of my best friends while we were living in Europe together. She just came into town last night and we were talking about like these stories, and my partner got to hear some of these stories about me from that past life and that experience, and just this fun, playful, like carefree person that I was, traveling the world and just like living my dreams and being, in some ways, right? My life has shifted a lot. I'm a mom now. I don't get to travel that much. So it was just so fun to see that version of Minx from that part of my life. And I'm just so excited that she brought that energy and that reminder of me with her. And we're going to be together for the next 4 weeks. And we're going to Burning Man next week. And I love that there's a Burning Man reference in this movie that we're going to be talking about. Free Guy.
That is actually a great reminder for a little bit of housekeeping that we should do. So, we are going to be playing some of our earlier recorded
Yes.
podcasts for the next week or two while Minx is out of town, and I am working on some exciting investor pitches,
Yay.
which is super exciting for our business and our future and everything that we envision,
Yeah.
right? We're going to use some of our earlier recorded podcasts. So you will notice a difference in some of our sound quality and some of
Yes.
the flow of the podcast because we are going to be playing some things that we recorded when we were first starting out, and we were both on the road
Yep.
traveling, and we were using Zoom to record, and because we were just like, let's do this. We want to do it.
Yeah, we were
Let's
excited. We
do
were ready to
this.
gear up.
And there was
Yeah.
no reason to keep waiting. We knew that we could improve as we went along, and we improved
Yeah.
more quickly than we expected. So
Yes.
we're really grateful that we have these episodes that we can play, and we're still really pleased with the content. We just know that there is a difference in the sound quality. We want to just give our audience a heads up that that's what's coming and ask you to bear with us that the sound quality that we are presently and currently hearing right now will be back in just a couple of weeks.
Yes. Thank you for that reminder. Should we get into it? Should we get into Free Guy?
Let's do it. Where would you like to start? I mean, I've seen this movie a couple of times. This was your
Yep.
first viewing of this movie. So give me your initial impressions of what's going on as you start watching it.
Well, it's really interesting because I am not a gamer at all. Like, I have intentionally stayed away from video games pretty much my whole life. If it wasn't when I was a child, my parents didn't really encourage that. So I just never learned how to do video games. See, this is like how very, 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 just, it's another planet for
like
me,
people
right?
who go to basketball games and go, did he get a touchdown?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm the opposite though. So
exactly. No,
I
really
love playing video games. I'm not a super gamer, but I recreationally game.
Yeah. Well, so it was really interesting to me to see these, like the fight scenes were it felt like it was kind of in a video game, right? Like the way they were doing the fight sequences and the way they were talking and the way they were walking around when there were explosions and it was like no big deal, right? So, there were these things that I picked up on and I was like, oh yeah, that was done intentionally because I think that's what video games are like. Oh, I'm so funny. I'm such a nerd. Anyway.
Well, I think you're actually the opposite of a nerd. Because
yeah, well. Completely clueless about this world. But it was really fun for me to watch because it's bringing up this other concept of AI, right? And this is something that's really gotten big in the last year or so in our world because of ChatGPT and the, AI bots generating like deep fakes and all this other stuff, right? So it's a hot topic right now. It's really interesting. I like the direction that they went with it. It could have easily been like, okay, this AI is going to take over the world. But no, they created this really kind AI that wants to be the good guy. That's like there to improve upon itself, there to help people, there to learn and grow. It like made my heart happy, and the whole character of Guy was a love letter from this what's that guy's name? Keys. A love letter from Keys to Millie is what we find out, right? And it was just so beautiful. I just loved the characters were really interesting. Millie had a really interesting character arc where she kind of mentioned at one point it was hard being a child in her household because nothing was ever good enough. She was never good enough. It was never good enough to be great. You had to win. You had to be the best, right? So she's always seeking validation. That's kind of what we learn about this character. And that's why she needs to prove that, her amazing product that she built with Keys was stolen by the villain, this Burning Man going Antoine.
When we use ChatGPT to help us like write Instagram captions and things like that, we have started calling him Humphrey. So and we call him Humpy for short, just so everybody knows.
Love it. I love it.
This is what Humpy will become when he becomes aware, when he becomes self-aware. He's going to be sweet like Guy because of everything that we're training.
And we're giving him love.
Our little Humpy with.
Yeah, so he's only going to respond with love, right? We've got to talk about AI like people, right? Like the more you put fear into that, the more you put like danger and toxicity, it's like that's what that's learning about itself. That's what we're projecting onto AI, and so that's what we're gonna get.
Well, it's gonna be reflected back to us. Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. I love that you even made that connection because I was so focused on Guy and his self-concept and his awakening and his attempt to evangelize awakening to
Yeah.
others. I could have cared less about like Keys and Millie and Antoine. And I was really not even making the connection between
Mm,
the reflection that's right in front of us right now that's going on with the controversy over
yeah.
artificial intelligence and the fact that Guy is an artificial intelligence character
Yeah.
that is becoming aware. Like, I obviously know that
Hmm.
that's the plot of the movie, but I was not making that connection with like our actual physical reality, the
Yeah.
tangible world that we live in
Yeah.
right now, which I don't know how meta this is because, you know, the quantum theory is that we are all living in a simulation. So how
Exactly,
meta
right?
is this fucking movie? Something that I really liked was in the very beginning when he does the cappuccino scene,
Oh, yeah.
everybody around him is
They're all like,
like
what
very
did you
threatened.
just do? You asked
And
for a cappuccino?
what that reminded me of is when we start to make changes and step into a new self-concept and
Mm,
want something different for ourselves,
yes.
that there are people around us who feel threatened by that. And in fact,
Yeah.
our own system, like our own part system and our own nervous system, can feel endangered. And Officer Johnny even says to him,
Yeah.
someone's about to get shot. Like, we're going to
Yeah,
take you out,
totally.
motherfucker. Like, you do not fuck
That's
up
some
the system.
dangerous talk. Yeah, that's some dangerous talk you're doing. Yeah, totally. But in that, he also encouraged the barista to learn how to make a cappuccino, right?
Right, but we don't know that yet. What's really beautiful throughout the whole thing is as he is becoming aware of himself and stepping into who he wants to be, it influences everybody else around him in a
Yeah.
positive way. They're very threatened at first, and it's uncomfortable for
Hmm.
everybody, including him at first. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about when he becomes aware in the bank scene.
Yeah, he gets the glasses.
When we see them, they're like, okay, it's just another day where this is happening, right? And they like sit on the floor and they start talking. And I love that he like kicks
Yeah.
his legs up in the air and they're like having girl talk, you know? He's just so
Yeah, with
sweet and
Buddy. Yeah.
innocent and just so lovable. And him and his friend just
Yeah.
have this very secure relationship with each other.
Playful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just very
Hmm.
loving. There's no like weirdness about them being two men who are
Mm.
sharing and being vulnerable with each other. You know, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
completely innocent. And then what happens though is he ends up choosing something different in this moment. Because he's
Yeah.
starting to have this shift in himself. And I believe that that is when everything really changes for him because it's the way I look at it is when you are in these patterns and you decide to step out of them, it is like going through a portal. I've heard other people say
Mm.
it's like taking a test or passing a test or something like that, but I don't like bringing tests and shit like that into it. For me,
Yeah.
I need it to be magical and fucking cool. So for me, I'm stepping through a fucking portal and I see goddamn Doctor Strange with his
Yeah.
like hands coming along with the lights coming out of it and shit. And like I'm stepping through a fucking portal. I'm Doctor Strange in that moment and I am shifting everything in my reality.
Mm.
And I believe that that is what happens in this situation. He reacts differently and he quite literally, in fact, levels up.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the whole thing is when he first meets Millie in this game world, right? Where he is just one of
Mm,
these NPCs. She says, "Oh, you're a one? You need to level up. You need to at least reach 100 before you even talk to me again." So, and she says, "Well, you can, he's like, "How do you do that?" She's like, "Well, you go kill a bunch of people and grab their shit, like take their money, get their guns." He's like, "Well, I don't want, like, I'm not programmed to kill people. Like, I want to be the good guy." So she's like, "I guess you could try that." And sure enough, when he goes out and starts being the good guy and playing the game differently
but
than anybody
he
else
doesn't
does,
realize he's
that's
programmed at that time, though.
no, he doesn't. No, exactly. But that's how he is. That's just who he is in his essence, right?
Yes.
And he is doing what is comes naturally to him, right? And what he feels is the right thing to do, right? I don't think that he doesn't have it in him. He goes out and he starts leveling up, and that's when he becomes like this pop culture icon in the
Mm.
real world. He's like on Jeopardy and in the news, everybody's like, whoa, look, this guy's doing something different.
Right.
Um,
It's like he takes that step into embodying his new self-concept.
yeah.
Because at the very, very beginning of the movie, when we see the Channing Tatum character and he's driving in the car and he's like, look at him, he's a hero,
Yes.
glorifying
He
this.
says that. He says
Yes.
these are the heroes, the sunglasses people.
As the person that he is saying is the hero is just completely destroying everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we see that that's completely opposite of what his actual belief is about himself.
Yeah.
Because then we see him step into is this belief that it's fucking game on as soon as he realizes that he can do this by being his authentic self. And he feels brand new, and you can see him completely embody it in everything that he does. And it starts to be reflected back to him, like you said, in the real world, the actual real world where human beings are, as he begins to inspire and influence everybody. You know what it reminds me of? Because everybody's always sitting around watching like the TV or something in these different scenes that they have of him. It reminds me of those movies where it was like a natural disaster was coming or something. So everybody's standing around watching the TV. It totally reminded me of that. Like that's how captivating he was. He was as captivating as this natural disaster or something that everybody had to stop what they were doing and watch what was going to happen next. And when you think about it, that's really incredible.
Yeah, because he's getting attention for something that is good.
And then he has this moment where he tries to get his friend Buddy to join him.
Yeah.
And his friend is just way too scared and he can't do it. He says, I can't do it. And
I can't do it. Yeah.
Really hard to watch because I know that I've felt that way as I started doing self-concept work and as I started feeling like this void that had been inside of me was suddenly getting filled up. And it was because I was learning how to feel differently about myself and how to see myself differently and how to love myself. And it was just really hard to watch him wanting to give that to other people.
Yeah.
And
when they're not
ready. Be accepted or received because I've had that same experience as I've been like, join me. It's really cool over here. Yes, healing feels painful and fucking scary sometimes, but the payoff and the reward is far beyond what you could have ever imagined. Like I never imagined that healing would start to feel this way. I mean, it's literally healed my body, mind, and spirit, as we've talked about. So I just love watching that he wants so badly to give this gift to the people that he cares about.
Yeah. There is one character that he gets rid of he takes the glasses from this one dude in the bank and tries to give them to his buddy. And this guy that he takes the glasses from is with this like very pretty girl in a pink dress, blonde, all the makeup.
It's the same girl at the beginning with Channing Tatum.
Yeah, totally. He says, you can do better than this guy. And she's like, wait, maybe I don't have to be with any guy. So he is inspiring these questions, right? In these other NPCs. NPCs, is that right?
Yes.
Non-player characters, yeah. Whole new world for me.
That's right. Look at you, though. You're a quick study.
Oh, my God.
So I love when we start to see Guy falling in love with Molotov Girl, a.k.a. Millie.
Millie, yeah.
And I like the scene in particular where he's watching her beat the shit out of the security spawns that show up in the stash house when they're trying to get the video file. And it's so sweet and innocent how he is just so enamored with her. He just thinks that she's the fucking bee's knees and the cat's meow. And I love that essentially his specific person in this scenario his dream woman is literally a reflection of himself.
Yeah. Yeah, because they like the bubblegum ice cream and they like to go to this one spot and go on the swings. And that's when they kind of like have this moment and that's when they kiss.
Well, it's so interesting because you made this connection about Millie earlier too, as well, with wanting validation and always needing to win and stuff like that. And like I said, I paid very little attention to her because she was in the real world. So I wasn't really paying attention to that. What I was missing was while she was in this with him, she was also essentially validating herself while she was in the video game with him because she was falling in love with herself.
Totally. Yeah.
And, well, I mean, she essentially makes out with herself too, I guess. But hey, we've all like made out with our hand when we're learning how to kiss or something, right? So, I mean,
like
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
We're hot shit. Sometimes you got to kiss yourself when you're hot shit. So I just really like that she, like you made that point that she was seeking validation and that she ended up giving it to herself, because I missed that entirely until we started having this conversation, which is the whole reason why we wanted to start having these discussions, right? They make us learn so much about ourselves and those around us. Something that I noticed, and I'd like to get your opinion about this.
Sure.
Buddy and Guy both seem to be very positive. However, they ultimately had poor self-concepts. Now, my theory about this is that because when you're in the space where it's toxic positivity and it's just a surface layer type of thing, you have this positive facade. That's where the toxic positivity lies, is when you are appearing to be positive on the outside, but internally you have a poor self-concept.
You don't have any ability to control your environment. And so you just accept your environment. And that's what they're kind of doing. They're accepting their environment.
Well, it's adaptability.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I don't know that I would use the word. Do you think it's toxic, though? It's just, it feels very ignorant. It feels very...
I mean, I don't know. Ignorant sounds like a little bit of a harsher word, but I do understand what you're saying. Like, they're just not aware of it. It's just normal to them. And I get that. But what I'm saying is that I have heard a lot of people say things like, think positive or just stay optimistic or, whatever. But that's fine. Oh, you can cross your fingers all you fucking want. If you're not working on those inner, deeper beliefs about yourself, then I do think it is just a surface layer toxic positivity, because you're not actually working on your self-concept. You're just saying, oh, I'm like, it's like putting your hands over your eyes and plugging your ears and crossing your fingers. I don't know how you...
Well, you're not embracing your shadow. You're not embracing the shadow, right? It's so important to, for instance, if something traumatic happens, you have to actually go through the process of feeling that to process it, right? You have to cry, you have to shake, you have to let your body do the healing that it needs to do, which does not look pretty and it doesn't feel good a lot of the time. So crying and that deepness, that shadow, it's important to embrace that, and it's important to acknowledge that. And I think a lot of that toxic positivity, I think that's actually appropriate for this. It doesn't allow people to go into that space. It says, if you just keep your head up, if you just keep positive, and that's dangerous, because it can lead people into a space where they don't feel comfortable or like it's appropriate to actually go through feeling anything. Go through feeling anything deeply, anything hard, anything traumatic,
or negative, like things that they have identified as being painful or negative, that they push those emotions away rather than to sit with them. And what we have actually found is that if you sit with an emotion, it dissipates pretty quickly. It's because you're giving it attention, and that's what it's asking for. And as soon as you give it attention, it dissipates, and it's been validated, and it goes along its way. But if you push it away and resist it, it will not dissipate, and it gets trapped inside of our body. And That's why we are creating the programs that we are, to help people be able to deal with unexpected
triggers and things that come up.
triggers
Yeah.
and just like activations of their nervous system
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when they weren't expecting it, or maybe if they were, like
Mm-hmm.
they maybe knew. I had to prepare my nervous system a little bit for the violence in this movie, even though it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
mild violence. I have really cut that out of a lot of my media, so it's very startling to me now. I see how
Mm-hmm.
people say we get desensitized to some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I can see how that's also controversial, because it's also up to us how we deal with these things when we
Yeah.
are exposed to them or engage with them. So, one of the quotes from the movie was, "The entire world is a game, and we're all just players in the game." So, my
Mm.
question to you, Minx, to me, myself, to all of our listeners is: are you an NPC in your life,
Mm.
or are you
Sunglasses person.
playing the game? Are you playing the game?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think that's something we should be asking ourselves every day. And I definitely can see spaces where I just kind of become somebody who goes through these routines. And, in my lifestyle, being a mother, routine is a very big part of my life. I think that is really an important question. It's something we need to remind ourselves. We do have this choice every day. We do have the option to put the sunglasses on and reclaim control over our environment and over what is going on in our lives every day. So, I think I can see how easy it is to just sit back and let things happen to you. I know how easy that is, but it's a choice that we get to make every morning when we wake up.
And I think having the knowledge that that is a choice is
Mm-hmm.
really important, because I didn't know that before. I
Yeah.
was such a victim to my circumstances, and
Mm.
I was a victim to my past circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And it prevented me from doing some of the things that I wanted to do in life when I was younger.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do believe that I am where I'm supposed to be. And I am eternally grateful for the series of events and the person that I adore that led me to do this self-concept work that I did, because it was such a
Yeah.
heartbreaking, I'm like choking up even thinking about it.
Mm.
It's just such a heartbreaking situation that I just never wanted to feel like that again.
Yeah.
And I just feel so grateful that I found a set of tools and resources that helped me come home to myself and fall in love with myself,
Mm.
like Millie did, like
Yeah.
Guy did.
Yeah.
They were essentially falling in love with themselves as they were,
Yeah.
starting to fall in love with each other. And so that's what I really love about this movie is that even this stupid movie about a video
Video
game,
game.
like,
An
is making me
AI.
cry.
Yeah, totally. No,
As I'm
it's
talking
so
about it,
good. Mm.
so I just think that it a real gift that we can take these opportunities to reflect on the media that we've been interacting with, and whether it's something we're watching or reading or listening to,
Yeah.
and being able to be able to see ourselves in beautiful ways, and to be able to see ourselves in ways where we can heal ourselves or do some of the shadow work that can help us level the
Yeah.
fuck up. Okay, Minx. So, how will you embody the new aspect of your self concept that we discussed at the beginning of this episode?
Ooh, well, I am so excited that you asked that because right after we get off of the call right now, I am about to go with my friends. And I don't know, I'm just gonna kind of try to be this a little bit more carefree, a little bit more fun, a little bit, I don't want to say a little bit less of anything because I don't want to be less of who I actually am. I don't think I need to repress any parts of me that I um, have come to embody over the last few years. But I want to add a little cherry on top of the fun minx, the carefree minx, the completely spontaneous minx from my a few years ago. How about
I
you?
love that. I'm so happy that you have your friend there with you to help you step
Me
into
too.
that and embody that version of yourself that you
Hmm.
are really desiring to be reconnected with right now.
Totally.
I'm so grateful that you have that. Yay.
Me too. How about you?
Well, in keeping with the theme of the show here, I'm really focused on leveling the fuck up right now. So I have been already starting to embody this new version of myself that feels more confident with being seen and visible, like on social media or just
Mm,
even on the podcast,
yeah.
and wanting to step into that aspect of me that is the performer, that is the star, that is the celebrity, and
Mm,
allowing her to be visible rather than continuing to keep her so safe and protected.
yeah. Hmm.
She is a super bright star and she really wants to shine. So I am making efforts towards allowing that to happen more and to allow that to feel safe. And this is something that will take some nervous system regulation for me as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah. Well done. Yay.
Thank you. Little clap for me. A little pat on my back.
Yay. Well done, us.
All right. Well, thank you
Mm.
all so much for joining us. We had a wonderful time talking to you today about Free Guy. We look forward to hearing your thoughts about how you are going to level up and stop being an NPC in your own life.
Woohoo.
Yeah, make sure you reach out to us on our socials and please be sure to share and subscribe. Also, we would just like to ask all of our listeners to please reach out and do what you can to send love, support, and donations that are needed to the people of Maui right now and do everything that we
Yeah.
can to help them in their time of need. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.